LDBC, this is your boy Coach Sheldon Harrison. You're live on the Coach Sheldon Harrison Boxing and MMA Show live. And I'm going to tell you do something. I'm going to tell you do something right now. I want you guys to look very carefully at the women on this screen. I want you to look very careful at the women on the screen. These women on this screen are the reason why Dana White has made some of the decisions that he's made in the UFC. Okay, these women all have a common story. They were destroyed by Cris Cyborg. You see, Cris Cyborg is getting in the ring with these women, and she is completely decimating them. She's not even giving them a chance to go the distance because they never make it the distance. They never do. She is getting in this ring, and she is decimating these women. And she's not only beating them, she's putting them out for long periods of time. So now you get a moneymaker. You get a guy like Dana White who's very business savvy. And he started thinking to himself, I can't afford to have Ronda Rousey out for 8 months. I can't afford to have Miesha Tate out for a year. Because, see, you know, Cris Cyborg retired Gina Carano. Oh, she retired her. Cris Cyborg beat her down so bad. I mean, Gina Carano, like, look, man, I don't want no more of this. She retired Gina Carano. At least that's what, you know, that's what my research told me. And Gina Carano, in my opinion, was a good fighter. She's a real good fighter. But Cris Cyborg was on another level. Now, we can say that Cyborg used the drugs and the PEDs. Yeah, we can say that. And you know what? Yeah, that's all said and done. But Cyborg, when she's in that ring with these girls, she's beating them and she's decimating them. And Dana White can't have that kind of decimation in the ranks of his women's MMA because that's money. And Cyborg is bad for business. I'm going to tell you now, Cyborg will never get pushed in the UFC. It's not going to happen. He's not going to push her. That's too much money. See, he could push Cyborg and let Cyborg be the champion, but who the hell is she going to fight? Who is she going to fight? Because everybody's going to be out of commission. So he's not going to let that happen. I want to show you guys the truth and how to defeat Cris Cyborg. And I know people say, oh, Coach, this is a dumb vid. But listen, I used to fight. And I really analyze fights I've analyzed them carefully. I analyze them carefully. And I'm going to tell you some of the mistakes that some people made and some of the good things that they did. I'm going to start off with Gina Carano. Okay, the first thing that Gina Carano did, she displayed her power early. You see, Cyborg has this uncanny ability, man. She got a chin of cast gold. And she likes to walk through punches. Cyborg sometimes don't even move her head. She'll just walk right at these punches. But see, I noticed that the people that she fought against that had power and they showed Cyborg that power early, Cyborg backed up. And Gina Carano actually backed up Cyborg. But see, at the heat of the moment, Cyborg is so vicious and she's so savage that Gina Carano just didn't have time to think like, oh, I showed her my power. All I got to do is take a step back and let Cris Cyborg walk into my right hand that she got staggered with the first time that she backed up. But see, Gina Carano, they couldn't think, man, because Cyborg is always moving, man. She's like an Energizer bunny. The woman never gets tired. Like, you know, think about this. Think about you in a fight with somebody. And think about somebody punching you. You not throwing punches, she's still throwing punches. It's the second round. You trying to take a rest, she throwing punches. It's the fifth round. You trying to rest, you out all exhausted, she's still coming at you full-fledged. Like, literally, man, literally. Cyborg is a hard person to keep off of you. But if you show your power early, see, you can catch breaks and catch breathers with Cyborg because she's going to bag up for a couple of seconds and you can get a breather. Okay? The second thing that I'm going to tell you to do is you're going to have to avoid throwing multiple kicks for damage at Cyborg. You can't throw a lot of kicks at Cyborg. Okay, you can't do it because if you throw those kicks, she's going to time you. She's going to catch you and she's going to take you down. And Cyborg has a very underrated game. She has a very underrated takedown game. I mean, very underrated. And I mean, when I tell you this, her jiu-jitsu is probably second to none. Okay? Now, you can use kicks on Cyborg, but you have to use them to keep the range. Okay, if you try to throw a kick to do damage to her, man, she's going to catch those. But if you throw your kick up there to do range, like she fought in a Muay Thai match against Jarena Bars. And Jarena Bars, man, she was kicking the crap out of Cyborg. But see, she wasn't using those kicks to do damage. She wasn't trying to. She was using those kicks as a jab. And Jarena Bars is so efficient with her kicking that Cyborg, it gave her problems. But she stuck her foot out there, put it in, and put it back. You know, she put it back on the ground. Because she knew Cyborg was going to catch the foot. And Cyborg did that to her a couple of times in the match. But you got to use the kicks to use range. See, the key is keeping separation between you and Cyborg. See, the more Cyborg can come into your 2 feet of space, If she can invade that space, I'm telling you, Cyborg is going to destroy you. Now, the second thing is you got to use a good jab to keep the range. Cyborg don't like getting hit with a stiff jab. But see, now that goes without saying, okay? Your jab has to be able to inflict power. And you have to have power in that jab. If you don't have power in the jab, Cyborg is going to walk through that undeterred. If you look at Jarena Boris in this diagram right here, oh, she hit Cyborg with a nice stiff left jab. And Cyborg felt that jab and Cyborg backed up. You see, making Cyborg go backwards is the key. How do you do it? How do you do it? You show your power early, and you give Cyborg a very good jab, a long jab. You keep the jab in her face, and she's going to less likely try to run in like that. And I've seen it. Gina Carano was successful in doing it before she got beat down. Jarena Boris was very successful, even though it was a Muay Thai match. I mean, Cris Cyborg is still savage in a Muay Thai match. I mean, honestly, she's still throwing people down, taking them down, hitting them in the back of the head, beating them up. I mean, she's still doing these things. But keeping a jab in her face, man, I'm telling you, it's to me, that's your key weapon in keeping Cyborg out of your face. Okay? Another thing that I don't have mentioned on this is that you have to have foot movement. You have to move. Okay, you can't stand in front of Cyborg and throw punches and kicks and think that you're not going to get dumped on your head, because she's going to grab you and dump you on your head. You see, you got to come at a fighter like Cris Cyborg with angles. You got to move. You got to move, and you got to set traps. Because, see, she's going to constantly keep coming. You got to use her aggression against her, and it can be done. You see, aggressive fighters like Cyborg, they also are in danger of getting put to sleep. And don't worry, she hadn't fought the right fighter yet. But you get the right fighter with the combination of speed, power, and good foot movement, and they're going to catch Cyborg coming in, and Cyborg going to go to sleep. I'm trying to tell y'all. But, you know, another thing that you got to do is get Cris Cyborg on her back. She's got to get on her back. Cyborg is probably the least defenseless on her back. Even though her jiu-jitsu is very strong, it's very good. But see, you get her on her back, and now you take away some of her options, because she's not going to try to submit you. She's not. Okay? Let's just get submission out of your head. Cyborg is not going to try to submit you. So you don't really have to worry about the submission game with Cris Cyborg. She ain't going to try to do it. But I've heard, you know, and I've seen interviews where they said that she's pretty good at submission, but Cyborg likes to beat people up. She likes blood. She likes the smell of blood. I heard this, that Cyborg loves the smell of blood. Okay? So let's fast forward. If you can establish a full mount on Cris Cyborg, if you can do that, you're going to get the upper hand on Cris Cyborg. See, Gina Carano did a great job of getting a full mount on Cris Cyborg. But see, you know what happened? Gina Carano, for some stupid reason, she got up. And I'm sitting there thinking, why would you get up? You had Cyborg. She was getting some great shots on Cyborg. Good shots. And Cyborg, if you can get her into a full mount like what's shown on the screen, she's pretty much almost defenseless. And she can pretty much do absolutely nothing but try to block your punches with her elbows and with her arms. That's all she can do. That's all Cris Cyborg can do. And Gina Carano was very successful in establishing that full mount. But she gave up the full mount to let Cris Cyborg stand on her feet for whatever reason. Cyborg on her feet is dangerous. Like, you got to take Cris Cyborg to the ground. See, really and truly, the fight is going to go to the ground eventually, because it's inevitable before Cris Cyborg gets inside and takes you down. Now, opponents that are very strong on the ground, that can get off their back, that can get that full mount, that can establish full mount early on in the fight, they're going to dominate Cris Cyborg. Okay, I've seen Cris Cyborg go to her back, man, and she's very uncomfortable on her back, very uncomfortable. But if you give Cris Cyborg even a breath of fresh air, she's on her feet just like that. Like, all Cyborg needs is a second, just something, a separation, and she's back on her feet. That's the danger, though. That's the danger. And when she jumps up, man, she immediately grabs you and takes you down. And like, her jiu-jitsu is very underrated. Okay? The last thing that I'm going to tell y'all is, when you're fighting Cyborg, the fighters make a mistake to avoid damage. They try to get on the inside and try to smother Cyborg's punches. That's dumb, because when she realizes that you're smothering her, she's going to grab you and toss you. She's going to hip toss you, and you're going to be on the ground. And what is Cyborg going to do once you're on the ground? She is going to ground and pound you. She's going to ground and pound. Most of the fight with Cyborg is going to be stand up. But when Cyborg realizes that she can't stand with you, she's going to take you down. Go back and look at the Muay Thai fight when she fought Bars. Okay, when she fought Jarena Bars. Jarena Bars was getting the best of Cris Cyborg. I'm talking about she was kicking Cyborg in the head, knocking Cris Cyborg down. She got the best of Cris Cyborg. Now I'll admit Cris Cyborg really unleashed a lot of fury on Jarena Bars, but man. And when Cyborg realized that, oh, wait a minute, I can't stand and strike with this girl. This girl is too good on her feet. Cyborg was throwing Jarena Bars down multiple times. That's why I keep saying, had this would have been an MMA fight, Cris Cyborg would have won easily. Because, I saw Jarena Bars in a couple of MMA fights, and, she's not that good. She really not. Because she don't have the ground game to actually, win a fight. She just don't. And when MMA fighters, they realize that your stand-up game is good, then they take you to the ground. That's what happens, okay? But this is my comprehensive breakdown on how to beat Cris Cyborg. Okay, this is what somebody's going to have to do. Also, too, what's not listed is you're going to have a level of strength. You see, the problem with a lot of these girls is that Cris Cyborg is just 10 times stronger than these girls. So she overpowers them. Pure with just strength and just her presence in the ring, man. She's just strong as crap. But I mean, and also, you're going to have a chin. Jarena Bars had a chin. She took the best that Cyborg had. And see, Jarena Bars, honestly, if she was experienced on the ground, she could be the type that could beat a Cris Cyborg. But unfortunately, since Jarena Bars doesn't know much about the mat and MMA rules, Cris Cyborg will go in there and completely destroy her. This is your boy, Coach Shelton Harrison. You guys tell me what else you think. Tell me if there's anything else that I missed in this video. What else you think that a person could do to defeat Cris Cyborg? I'm done.